Hi, everybody. I'm Ellary Stanford-N'Namdi now, and I am with my first cousins, Jean Akins and Alma Monroe. We are here to videograph our family history. We are the fifth generation of the Stanford Page family. My father was Matthew Stanford. He was the oldest of the family. The oldest sister was Alma's mother. Her name was Mary Lee, but we called her Aunt Mary Lee, and we called her Choo Choo Pie. And then Aunt Minnie. And then we have Jean's mom, who was Melvia, was her real name, but all of the cousins know her. I knew her as Aunt Choopy, and here in California, she was known as Aunt Choo Choo. So we're here with the fifth generation, and we're going to go backwards from our parents to their parents and talk about our family history, which started in Texas. And with that, I'm going to introduce Miss Jean. We're going to make it informal so she can talk about where we came from and why.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, our great-grandfather and great-grandmother came from Gainesmore. Gainesmore was a little area located on the Caney River, Caney Creek actually. The Caney Creek originated from the Gulf of Mexico around Matagorda Bay. Stephen F. Austin was given a grant. First of all, there were 50 families, and then the Mexican government upped it to 300 families, and they all settled along Caney Creek. There was an upper Caney and a lower Caney. The great-grandfather was a foreman at the Thompson Plantation. And all the children, of course, were born there. And eventually, after the Civil War, he was able to purchase some land, about 200 acres, I think it was, on the prairie. Well, Texas is like a prairie. Well, anyway, the family moved there. But he didn't move there. He stayed on and worked on the plantation so that I guess he could pay for it. Well, Debbie and I have found out that after his death, he still owed about $3,000 on the property. So the family stayed on, taxes were paid, and whatever else needed to be done. And we still have that land today. Thank goodness that we've been able to hold on to it for this amount of time, considering the fact that he had purchased it immediately following the Civil War, when a lot of things were going on, especially in Texas. So anyway, from there, many of the children left the area, went elsewhere because of jobs, of course, because cotton wasn't so plentiful in the 1870s. So they had to find some other means of providing for their families. Two of the children stayed on, however, on Buckma Sprayer, and that was actually three. That was Mama Anitha, that was Uncle Richard, who was the preacher in the family, and Uncle Tom. Uncle Tom had one child. He was married to Aunt Isetta. Mama Anitha didn't, she had two children, Cousin Beulah and Fema Woodard, the one that raised me. And then Uncle Richard had one daughter. We called her Nina, but her name was Leola. So they farmed little pieces of land that enabled them to have enough money to actually pay the taxes on the property for years and years to come.
So can I interrupt here? So the great grandfather we're talking about, Boone?
No, we're talking about William Page.
Okay. So
Okay.
that's our grandmother's
Right.
history.
Our grandmother's father.
Okay.
Okay.
William
Mhm.
Page.
And they, of course, had to borrow money from the general store in order to make it through the winter, or to buy seeds so that they could plant their cotton or corn or whatever it was. And I have some receipts from where they did borrow from the general merchandise store that date back to I guess about 1907, right here, and where, however else. The other thing was that they had to buy some horses, and I have a receipt where they had to purchase a horse for, I think it was like $75. Well, they had to have those horses in order to pull the plows or whatever else they needed in order to take care of their farm. So
that's a sable mare.
yeah, bill of sale.
One. He said gray sable mare or something.
Yeah,
That was really cool.
and $70 that they paid for it.
That they hung on to those receipts.
Huh?
They were business people. They
Oh,
hung on to the
very
receipts.
definitely. They held on to those
Receipts. Oh, income tax.
when they went. Yeah.
7 years, 100 years.
Amazing. Yeah, that is amazing that they could do that, and that they thought it was important.
Mm-hmm. I guess it was important.
Who do you think hung on?
They had to keep up with what they were doing. They didn't want the white man to take stuff from them.
That's the other thing I wanted to ask. So the families that got to settle on Cheney Creek, were they African American? Were they black family, colored people?
Most of them, yes. Most of them were slaves, actually, that had been brought over to Texas because of Stephen F. Austin's grant that the Mexican government had given him.
Mm-hmm.
Then they brought their slaves with them into Texas. They could do that. They could bring their slaves with them.
Okay. From Mexico or from other parts of the U.S.?
Okay. From Virginia and Alabama.
Okay. Okay.
And that's why Uncle Bubby, your dad, went to Alabama to see if he could trace the family back, maybe to Africa.
Wow. How did you know that?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So we have two lineages from Alabama. So we have Daddy's mom, and then Daddy's dad, which was the Boone.
Right. Exactly. Okay. Yeah, because
Daddy's
your dad's dad settled in Upper King. Okay. In a little area that's called Linville.
Yes.
And he bought 480 acres of land. Okay. Which meant that his land actually spread all the way to the back of what the Pages had. The Pages had land that had come from like the Raft plantation. And it was all in one, but your dad's people, their land was kind of divided up. I guess he actually divided it for the benefit of his children, He gave all of his children like 20 acres of land, and that's the land that your mom gave me So and we're still paying taxes on that land as well. And as a matter of fact, a few years ago, Alma and I tried to stop the sale of a part of that land that was up for share sale in Bay City. So we sent Anthony and another cousin to the courthouse to try and bid on the land. But the bid got so high that we knew we couldn't afford it, you know.
So because of some kind of law, whatever, they have the right to do that.
Yeah. Actually, I don't know if they really had a right to do that without actually consulting those people who are left, like us.
Right, right.
They should have consulted us, I thought, before, putting it up for share sale. So we could have maybe paid the taxes on it and kept it from being sold.
Right, okay. So we did not know it. So all of the settling, the grant and the settling happened after the Emancipation Proclamation.
After the Emancipation Proclamation.
She's the historian of the thing. Because that happened in
1863.
Yeah. Okay. So they came here, they came to Texas.
No, that happened before. They came to Texas before the Emancipation Proclamation.
And so they stayed on the plantation after that, and that's when they acquired the land.
Right, exactly.
I just want to be clear in my opinion. Okay.
That's when they acquired the land after the Emancipation Proclamation. Because, that part of Texas was the last one that found out that the Emancipation Proclamation had taken place.
Right.
Okay.
Right. We were already a year behind.
Yeah, exactly.
It was.
Exactly.
That's why they have Juneteenth.
Right, that's why we have Juneteenth. But this was even after Juneteenth. After Juneteenth?
No, they found out Juneteenth.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what Juneteenth is all about.
Right.
That blacks were free.
Yeah. So as the story goes for Juneteenth in Texas, the Emancipation Proclamation happened, and Texans, for whatever reason, decided not to tell the slaves that they were free. So the government sent General, what's his name?
Garner, what's his name? Garner.
Yeah, Garner, through Galveston, which was a main port. And there's a place called Ashtonville where he actually, and that place still stands every day, where he actually read the Emancipation Proclamation.
Exactly.
And let the slaves know that they were free. So then it spread throughout Texas. So.
Right, and the building still stands.
The building is still there. When it's even in use.
Yeah.
So that's why Texans celebrate Juneteenth as there.
Exactly. So there are a few other states too, and more states are beginning to celebrate it as well. But that was the whole thing. Since we were so far, I guess, along the Gulf of Mexico, we didn't get the news. Somehow or another, we didn't get the news.
Yeah, that's a whole story.
They just have the internet.
Google. No cell phone. You couldn't call everybody, huh?
Nope. Absolutely not. But at any rate, so the story goes on that we were able to hold on to the land up until this period of time, and we're pretty proud about that.
It's a great accomplishment because many people don't have.
Exactly.
And one of the things that you told me in one of the conversations is that I think is wonderful is that our memories, even though you gave the history, your memories and those that were before you they worked their own land. Right. And then you said, well, business people, they didn't work for other folks. And so.
Well, they did too, but they still farmed their own land. Like, Dad, for example, he farmed, what do you call it, sharecropping?
Yeah.
He sharecropped like 100 acres of land from this white man, and raised cotton and raised corn, and both of them, of course, went to market. And part of it he got a share, but I think a fourth of it went to the owner of the land. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. That's William Page, and William Page is the father of Mama Anarchy. Okay, I remember Mama Anarchy. And Mama Anarchy had two sisters who I just realized.
Mama Anarchy had, Mama Anarchy had Aunt Ella, of course, who's the closest.
Right.
The two of them.
And Uncle Richard was there also?
Yeah, that was their brother. Uncle Richard was their brother, and Uncle Elliot was their brother as well. Okay. And there were 10 of them. And then the grandfather, William, had 4 children before he married Mama Lee.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So, in all, there were 14.
That's why they tell us. Ask people where they're from and who they're related to.
Yeah, well, many of the people back then, they had more, they married more than one time, because usually one of them didn't, last very long. So there was time for them to have a second family. Okay. So I do remember the other, his oldest son, I guess, his name was William, too. And he lived right in back of Uncle Richard. And he built a little house in back of Uncle Richard. And Uncle Richard lived in Fifth Ward in Houston. And then there was another one that lived in, I guess, Galatius or someplace like that. It's out from Bay City. And what were they? Peters, I think was their name. And some of them had moved up to Michigan. So there was quite a few other folks around that were our relatives.
So after they were thinking about what they did farm.
Yeah.
It was farm.
Oh, good. So, and then the oldest one of Mama Lee's son had a store right out there in the country, right on the bayous. He had a store, and I guess they were very proud of that. Well, I was proud of it too.
Now that wasn't Pat.
Yeah, that was Pat.
That was Uncle Pat that had the store, and that's where Pat was. My sister.
Right.
Yeah, my sister Pat was there with Mary and Pat. Right.
Yeah. Well, Pat was dead because Pat died when I was like 4 years old. I remember, he had been in a car accident, and he never made it out of the car accident.
Is Pat older? No, with Pat, my sister Pat. No, Pat is younger than me.
Yeah, she's younger than me.
But she and Jean played
together.
On the prairie.
Right. Yeah. See, there was a house right in front of where the home place was, that we went to when we had our family reunion. There was a house there, a little 1-bedroom house, 1 bedroom, a living room. Of course, they all had a living room and a kitchen. That was it. And that's where Pat lived. I remember when Pat came to Texas. Yeah, she was only about 2 years old. Wow. Yeah.
Okay. They had the hogs. My mother's talking about the hogs.
Oh.
And killing them when we had good meat.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, when your mom came down for, I guess it was for Mama Lee's funeral, I must have been, one was 3 and one was 4. I don't remember which one, Papa or Mama Lee, had died when I was either 3 or 4. Okay. And your mom was down and they were killing this hog. And when they killed the hog, they had to let the blood, I guess, drip out of the hog before they could do anything with it. So they hung it on, there was this big live oak tree that was over there. The tree must have been already 100 years old. But anyway, they hung the hog on this tree to let the blood drip out. And in the meantime, they took the liver and they put it on sticks like you do marshmallows. And then they just kind of roasted that on the fire while they were waiting for the water to get hot.
Sounds like good eating, huh?
Oh yeah, it was good eating.
So then Mama Lou was our grandmother. That's William, Mama and Mama Lee, right? And then Mama Lou, which is her daughter. So there was Mama Lou. Mama Tina, was she a sister too?
She was a niece. And she loved her some Mama Lou. She would just go to Galveston and just do everything for her. And
So do you remember?
Very, no. She died when you were what? A baby or born, right? Or before you were born.
Because I never saw Ruby saw.
Yeah.
But she died very early.
Yeah, very young.
But they say that Alma looked very much like her and was built very much like the grandmother.
So that's our father, our parents.
His grandmother.
Yeah, her grandmother.
Yeah, your grandmother.
Yeah, Mama Lou. Yeah, Mama Lou.
Our grandmother.
Yeah, our grandmother. Okay.
And so then they decided to take care of Mama Lou.
Mama Lou's children. Nobody was going to bother her. Their bed sits with children.
They would be well taken care of.
So then they go back. Well, I know that Mama Lou died in Galveston. She married Stanford. Papa Phil. And they moved to Galveston. And I know she died in Galveston, in the house that we grew up in. And how many generations did we say lived in that house? We were talking about that.
Well, probably she did.
1, 2, 3 generations.
Because my father did not want to leave that house. He just had too many memories for him. You know, it's like, and I remember my first child I had in that house.
Okay.
And I remember him saying.
So that's 4 generations.
Yeah, mother was born in that house. But I remember him saying like 2 deaths and 3 births in that house. So for him it was, you know, it was really hard for him to leave it and, you know, move to the other house.
I can imagine so.
Yeah.
Well, one thing I think about all these people is that there was a tremendous love and a care for family.
Oh, absolutely.
They saw about each other, and nobody did without.
Right. Oh, no.
If there was a child that needed help, the child was taken care of.
Yeah.
And I think that still goes. That permeated the family. They were taken care of.
Right. Yeah, my father was very much like that, and I know that I have that from him. Like, take care of family.
Oh, yeah.
Well, my mother used to make a big deal. I'm sorry.
No, go on.
My mother used to make a big deal about your father going to the hospital to see about Kim.
Yeah.
When Kim was in the hospital, I guess in Galveston.
Yeah, she was.
And your father, my mother would go there and comb her hair.
Every day. That's what Kim said. Every day. He would go to the hospital and comb her hair. And he combed her hair.
And your father helped to take care of me when I was a young baby, up under the age of 2. So they were very caring, and I think before their time, like now, it's customary to see a lot of men taking care of the babies. But we went through a long period where you didn't necessarily see men
Yeah.
taking care of combing the hair, washing the clothes,
Right.
not those kind of tasks.
Right.
But it looks like in our family, that's the way Uncle Bobby.
Yeah, that's what he wanted. Because my mother said that, she said, the only thing that Daddy couldn't do for a child that she could do for a child was breastfeeding.
Mm-hmm.
He could do anything for a baby that she could.
Yeah.
Except breastfeeding. That was the only thing that he could not do. So but then he was the oldest son.
Mm-hmm.
And he loved his sisters.
And he could
he could cook.
It was wonderful.
Yeah, he took care of his sisters. They have a strong love for each other. All of them had a very strong.
Now, my mother was way out there and just living, doing domestic work and but people gave her something like a nice man's hat.
She said it.
Fixing it. My brother. He'll go
Alma Monroe.
I sent it to him.
And so, I always appreciated the love, and I always tell Jean that my mother thought the sun got up and dried on her mother's favorite sister. I said, when the sun came up, it came up and shined.
Right.
So somehow they established a tremendous love. I think that's a wonderful thing to do with children, to instill that type of love with the brothers and sisters. That they care, even when they were, I don't know how many miles it is from here to Texas.
To be exact.
Didn't matter, that love was there and that care was there. And never have I heard a derogatory word that I can remember from my mother's mouth about her family.
Wow.
And nobody else should ever say anything derogatory either.
About there was a tremendous love and respect for the family. And I don't know I don't know how they did it, but I don't know if that was Mama Lou, Mama Lee, I don't know where that strong caring about
It's a strong bondage, and I think it came from them being in bondage, being slaves, I think that's where it came from, that they would see after each other. Because, in the letter that I saw that our grandmother wrote to her mother, she said, send me some chicken, but don't send it by Tom, because he'll probably take it and kill it and eat it himself.
Who's Tom?
Why was Uncle Tom? Uncle Tom was her brother. But she did not want her chicken to be sent by Uncle Tom.
She wanted to have a chicken now.
Yeah.
Uncle Tom was going to eat it. Oh my goodness. That was hilarious.
Oh, she was too funny.
So why did people move to Galveston?
Well, work. Mainly work. As I said before, cotton kind of went down a little bit after the 1870s. And they had to have some way of paying for that land that they were, that the older people were living on. So some of them went to Galveston. And the waterfront was a big thing. Everybody worked on the waterfront. Even those in the country would go to Galveston in the wintertime and work on the waterfront. Yeah, because, see, Uncle Claudia and Uncle Bubby, your dad, they were like foremen down on the waterfront. So they could easily get jobs, where they could work maybe 2 or 3 days a week. That's all they needed in order to survive. Yeah. And not only that, but in bringing stuff in from the waterfront, they would bring like whole stalks of bananas and grapes and whole 100 pounds of sugar and stuff.
And rice.
They would bring that home and divide it among the family members. And, survival.
I remember that. Even they did that even to when I was growing up. And because Daddy would bring rice and cornmeal and all those things. And I remember, packing it. And, packing it so the weevils couldn't get in it.
Exactly.
A little bitty, so we always had cornmeal and rice and sugar cane. And, yeah, you're right. So they brought all this stuff off of the ship.
And syrup and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, they brought all that off the ship.
Tremendous pride too in having that job. That was a big job.
It was. And it paid good money.
Yeah, it paid good money at that time.
Yeah.
Well, even now it still pays good money,
Yeah. Even though it's not as labor intensive as it was.
Right.
So our generation, they went to Galveston, they worked, and then your parents got to be older, and they decided they wouldn't stay in Galveston because Galveston didn't have enough for them. Right?
There was
It was the war.
Okay.
And the war, they needed better jobs. And especially the women. Second World War. World War II. That's why they came to California.
Oh. You could work like at Lockheed. My brother worked at Lockheed. The air, and then Choo worked as a nurse.
Exactly.
There was those jobs that came from the war.
Oh, okay.
Here.
Okay.
And then too, the war also brought the men here. This was a place. What do you call it? One of the places that they could be sent out from. To Europe or because many of them went to France, especially.
Dad, because I remember.
Dad was stationed.
I have pictures of me and my mom. Yeah.
And Choo and Mother could go see him there.
Right.
That was another connection.
And he could come and see them in Monrovia.
So there was that connection. Being in the war, finding something to do during the war. But Choo and Mother were both in their 20s, probably about 24, 25.
Yeah.
They were very young.
Yeah, because I was maybe 3 months old when she became.
Very young. So they were probably looking for a way to survive and to make it.
And then their boyfriends had probably told them about, living conditions in California, which would really be Galveston. So, and they didn't want to come.
The other thing is that, they, like you said about family, when a child came into the world, if they felt like the person needed help, they didn't have any problem saying, I'm going to take care of this child. Oh, no. You get yourself together.
Their dead sister's child.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. Well, I think that there was a feeling that if they helped you to work with your child, that you could move up
and do better.
Right. Go to school, or you could work, or you could find something to do to make life better. Right. Because I think the war was a period where things were down. The farming, losing the land the way it did. People weren't making money on the land the way they were during that period of time. And so it was probably like sending people to college. It's in the university.
Right.
But they will help you with the children. Luckily, we haven't had to do a whole batch of that in our generation. Well, we had to do some.
Yeah.
We had to do some. Helping the younger babies to make sure that they make it. And that the parents can go into it.
So let's talk about sad design. And so how did Mama Louisiana, her name was Louisiana, and both of us named, my middle name is Louise, after my grandmother.
And her name.
And her middle name is Louise. And the story that I know is that my father, when I was born, wanted to name me Louisiana, like my grandmother, and my mother said, I'll take Louise. But I will not take Louise. And I can only say, thank you. So, yeah.
Yeah.
And I was named, and my first name is Ellary, which is after my uncle Ellary, which is my father's grandfather, my grandfather's brother.
Right.
So there was Ellary, there was Papa Phil, who was our grandfather, Uncle Ellary, and who else? There were like 13 of them.
Oh, I don't remember their names right offhand. But I do have a copy of
There's Edward, there was an Edward, there was a Michael, there was, some of my siblings are named after those.
Yeah. You're right, there were about 13 of them.
It's a matter.
Yeah.
About the booze.
Yeah, I was looking at the history of Matagorda County the other night, and I came across this lady by the name of Patsy Boone that had a grandson who was a POW.
Really?
Yeah, during the let me get it straight now. During the Korean War. Korean War? No, it was during the Vietnamese War.
Oh.
Because actually we have two cousins that were killed during the war over in that part of the world. But this POW, there's now a highway that is named for him.
Oh, really?
Yeah. You know where the Four Forks are? Right there in Cedar Lane? Well, the highway that goes from there to Bay City was renamed in what? I can't remember what the year was. But anyway, it was renamed Joe Parks Highway. Because as a soldier, he had been in the service only about what? No, he had been in the service about 20 years. And they were involved in a skirmish. And the Viet Congs took him as a prisoner of war in I think it was 1964. And then I guess they killed him, or he died from malnutrition or whatever. And they didn't really learn that he had passed until 1967.
Wow.
But his wife lived in Bell Bottom, which is the area of Caney Creek as well. And he had one daughter. But yeah, there's quite a write-up on him on the internet.
And that brings me to you said that you have a letter from, who is it? What's one of the presidents about? Was it Rome or one of our family members that passed away? And they wanted, the government was saying.
Oh, yeah. That was World War One. World War One. Okay. That was our Uncle Jack. Oh, here's the letter right here from the Treasury Department in Washington, D.C. To Mrs. Lee Page, Cedar Lane, Texas. You are hereby that your claim for burial. She had written to the government wanting them to pay for the burial of Uncle Jack. And they were saying that they were going to send her the amount of $15. $15. Sum of $15. And I guess the rats must have eaten part of this off or whatever. Anyway, but they weren't going to give her any more money. But finally, they did, give her more money, and they sent her a check every month for.
And my mother thought
Or
that
had
was a wonderful
lost.
thing that she got something.
Yeah, but see, what happened was that he had died of, what do you call this disease? It's a kind of flu that people get. While he was,
Dysentery?
No, some other kind of flu that you get. But anyway, he died while he was stationed right there in San Antonio, actually. But, and they said that since he had not died as a result of fighting in the war, that they weren't going to give her this money that she's asking for. But eventually they did give her some money.
And she got her little check, and they thought it was a good thing. Check. Gave his mom a little check. By that time, her husband was dead. She gave a little check.
Yeah, she was
$15 was a lot of money.
I guess you're right. Yeah.
But
It bought some things, I guess.
now the Booth family, I don't know if they served in the war like the Page family, but there were a lot of Pages when I
Uncle Ellary did. Uncle Ellary served in the army.
Uncle Phil did too.
Did he?
Actually, I did. Yeah, Uncle Phil was in the war, and yeah. Actually, because I looked on that Ancestry.com and I found his World War One. Or was it World War Two? No, that was two. So Uncle Phil was in World War One. I found his draft record.
His what?
His draft record.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so Papa Phil did serve. I don't know if any of his brothers did. Or you said Uncle Ellary did, so.
I know Uncle Ellary did because after Uncle Ellary got out of the war, then he came and he lived with
Daddy.
you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember him living with you guys.
So do you remember him too?
I remember him by the time I was born. So my name is Ellary because I'm the fourth child, and Matt and Michael had been born, and Nelson had been born, and you got a godparent. Dad and Mom had been married 10 years before they had any children, and they had 8. So by the time I was born, or being born, when Mama got pregnant with me, Uncle Ellary said, "That's my baby. You're gonna name that baby after me." And then started, doing some things to help and contribute to say, "This is my child." So she had full intention of naming me Ellary, but Ellery is the masculine spelling of it. So because I was a girl, it came out Ellary. So that's why, yeah. So I remember going to his house. I remember him, this tall. I remember Papa Phil too. I remember him. But he was always sitting in that chair out in his lawn in his front yard with this white straw hat on. It was a flat. You remember the flat straw hat on? But he was just this tall, lanky, red man that was there. This is pleasant as he could be. Yeah.
Well, he and Papa Philip were so much alike, you could hardly
tell the difference. Yeah.
Is that
Yeah.
And I think that red look runs
that
all the way
Indian
through from now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that Boone married an Indian woman, right?
Right.
And those are the children. So I think the tallest, because Edward is like that. Edward is red. He has red skin tone and red hair.
You're right.
So, yeah. Yeah, it does run through.
The family, a lot of them have that reddish or blonde look.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because they used to call Ethel red. Uncle Bobby had that bad red. She was called red and I was called black gal.
That's because he loves you.
I know.
So yeah, and I have actually connected with some Boones in Galveston.
Oh really?
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Yeah.
Well, I would like to know, as I said, I'm being redundant, but I'd like to know more about
right.
I know very little about the Boones. Yeah. I didn't even know the word Boone. I didn't ever hear people use that word. Did you ever hear that much?
The
last name.
No.
Oh, yeah. Oh, well, see, I went to school down there, so I had the Boones were teachers.
Isn't that stuff?
Yeah, where I went, there were like 1, 2, 3. My second grade teacher was the Boone.
Your relative. This was your relative.
Mm-hmm. My relative.
Isn't that something? That's like, that is neat.
That's
And see, there's still, and now there is still 4 or 5 generations down. There's
Right.
still loads of teachers.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, the only thing is that they did not have children like the Pages. You know, they didn't have a lot of children, so that made, I guess, a big difference in, you know, us being connected to them like family should be. Mm-hmm.
And that's what I was thinking, probably because we grew up. I remember meeting some people. I remember this lady. I never will forget. Daddy saying that's your cousin, and on the Stanford side, and I was like, oh, well, and she said hi, and she went on her way. But the Pages did have this pull. They had this "you are family" pull that you know they just kept you engaged,
right?
Where I guess the Boones were more doing their own. I don't know, but
because what's that man's name that used to live on 98 in Van Ness, 98 in Crenshaw, off of
Was that Teddy?
what?
No, I'm thinking Petalways.
No,
I'm off.
no,
Was it a Boone?
no, a little man, nice hair, drove the bus. He drove for Metro.
he was related.
Huh? Yeah, he was related.
And Elaine said there was a guy who lived down the street from her that was a Boone.
Oh yeah, Shedrick.
Yeah.
Shedrick
No, that was
Hawkins,
along with
actually.
Cousin Phoebe.
Cousin Phoebe's nephew.
Oh, okay. That's big names, I don't know, but
Yeah, some of them. The reason I said Pettyway is that was hit my mind from Cousin Phoebe.
Right.
Cousin Phoebe always connected with the Pettyway.
Yeah, on that side of the family.
Remember Cousin Phoebe?
Mhm.
She was here for so many years.
But Cousin Phoebe was also related to us on the Hawkins side, which is the Boone side.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my connection with the Boone side. The Boone connection, I didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
now is Tiny on the Page side or the Boone side?
Tiny and Angie is on the Boone side. Tiny and Angie was what was her name? The one that kept Ethel and Ruby for a while. I can't think of what her name is. I think her appropriate name, her real name was like Badger somebody or Badger somebody.
Yeah. I think you're right, Jean, and I think that's the lady that brought Betty when Betty came back, when Betty was sick.
No.
Now, wasn't the one that Betty wrote with?
Betty came back with a sickness.
With the sick.
I remember when Betty came back because I was all mad because Betty was leaving me. I was like Doris was.
And I
Well, go ahead on this.
I thought when Betty came that she was like the princess. Like now they have these princesses that come. When Betty got out of that car, and I said, "Look, this is my sister. She's a princess." She had little gold rings on. And because she had traveled by car, this was a big deal. We come all the way across from Texas and coming to get the morning.
Those were the Sydneys.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they brought her, and I said, "You wrote how many days?" I mean, it was just like, I thought that was the biggest deal in the whole world.
That was a big deal.
That's it. But since she left you and she came to me. So I had a playmate.
That was a real big deal.
Yeah, I thought that lady, I just remember them coming, bringing her in the car, and her getting out. She had little gold earrings, and she was dressed up. I guess you're right. When kids go on a trip,
Mm-hmm.
People do dress them up, right?
Mhm.
But she got, and we just thought, what?
She can eat
fried chicken the whole way.
Well,
Fried chicken in a little case,
Yeah.
they used to put that lunch in a little shoebox, right? A little box. Fried chicken,
That's right.
hard boiled eggs, and you're right, pound cake.
And pound.
And how you stayed that many miles, because there was no place for you to stop, right?
Right.
Nobody
You
was
couldn't.
letting you stop and leave.
I don't know, man.
Nope, you didn't do that.
You better keep riding.
So that was the gift.
Right
that
on
came
driving.
to Maple Street in
Mhm.
Melvia.
Wow.
So we let her be the queen of that street for a long time. That lasted a long trip. She was about 6, I guess.
She was probably retired.
Started riding in the car.
Yeah, but anyway, Isaiah was married to Karan. How do you pronounce it? Karanka's Indians. Those were the same Indian that they were trying to protect those who wanted to settle in Texas. They were trying to protect them from those Indians. But Isaiah married one of those Indians. Well, I guess rightfully so, because you know he and his brother, that was Papa Philip's grandfather.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Jean, you've got wonderful information. I can see why you became a history teacher. You are a family historian because you've got a wealth of knowledge that I don't have.
Anyway, he and his brother were
with that prairie.
He and his brother were on their way to Texas.
That I thought that was Elijah Boone, who was on from Alabama on their way.
Isaiah.
Okay.
I think his name was Isaiah.
Okay.
You could be right. His name could be Elijah.
Okay.
But anyway, that's what I was looking for.
Yeah. So he's the one who married
The Indian.
Yeah. And we don't know if they were they Choctaw?
No, they weren't. They were
Choctaw.
Karan. That's what I'm trying to pronounce. Karanthas or Karanthas. Karanthha something.
Where's my phone? We're on Google. I'll be back. Y'all be back. I'm gonna find out.
Okay.
I haven't heard of those kind of Indians.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. They were the ones that settled in Texas. As a matter of fact, he and that wife were the ones who gave the acre of land to build that church.
For the Boone?
That church in Lenville?
Yes, the one that's still there.
Yeah, the church that's still